Okay, I have the time as 10:31. We'll call the Senate Appropriations Committee meeting to order. This time I'd ask Senator Jones from the 25th if he doesn't mind leading us in an invocation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for your love, your grace, and your mercy, and pray today that you'll speak to us and through us in everything we do. In your name we pray, amen.
Thank you all for being here this morning. First item on the agenda is House Bill 81, the Senate substitute, and I'll go ahead and present that and begin that now. First, I want to praise the Governor's Office and the Office of OPB. They have done a great job of including us in this process, made this really smooth during a time that didn't have to be this smooth, and we appreciate their help along the way to get to the point where we are today. We realize that the Senate's passing of the budget is just one more step in this process, and there's still many steps to go before the state has a full FY22 budget that's agreed upon and signed by the governor. I also want to praise and thank our colleagues in the House, Chairman England, Martha, and Christine, who have been instrumental through this process as well, working with us, making sure that our numbers match their numbers match the governor's numbers, so that when we do finally roll out a finalized budget, that it's something that department heads can trust and employees can base their decisions upon. I also need to praise the members of this committee. Thank you for your involvement, many times coming in at 6:30 or 7:30, keeping early hours to make sure we got through this process in a timely manner. We knew early on we didn't know how fast we would need to move, but I appreciate your involvement, particularly that of the subcommittee chairs who've been involved throughout this process. Remember that the Senate budget is driven by senator request, and each one of you have made those requests, and we've tried to reflect them in the 206 pages that you see before you now. This process would be impossible, though, without the help of the Senate budget staff, including Melody, Brent, Courtney, Andrew, Natalie, Austin, Caitlin, and Keith, who do this not just while we're in session, but spend their time throughout the year making sure that our budget's true up, that agency requests are answered, and that we are in a position to be ready for the 2023 budget, which will begin starting shortly. Let me give you an overview of what's before you right now with the House Bill 81 sub. A big picture, the FY22 budget recognizes $27.2 billion in state funds. It's a 2.58% increase in growth over the FY21 budget. The big adds are where our priorities are. You'll see that education has the largest single item add, $567.5 million to the QBE formula, and that in the USG formula there's $70 million for credit hour and square footage formula increases for FY21 and $58.9 million for the same for FY22. This budget also recognizes $6 million of increases for the technical college system for the same credit hour and square footage formulas, and has $66 million for TRS for the required employer contributions for FY22. On top of these numbers, we also know that the USG and TCSG programs are receiving roughly $1.2 billion in federal funds from the ARP, the American Recovery Plan, and we've tried to point out through our budget where those are found as well. I told you education is the largest add. The second largest add in this budget is going to be in the category of health. We're going to agree with approximately $40 million in adds to the Department of Behavioral Health, and we'll have other adds that we'll discuss later on in this budget process as well. On our changes, there's roughly 22 pages of differences between our budget and the House budget, but the large percentage of those are just recognizing federal funds. Remember, the House budget passed out before the American Recovery Plan had passed, so we wanted to recognize those funds in our budget so that you can answer questions for constituents, so that you yourself know where some of those funds are going. And I also want to remind you and caution you that some of those are predictions. We still are waiting on some guidance out of Treasury for what's going where on the federal level. So while we point those out to you now, know that at times some of those are slight estimates. Let's start with just the categories. The first part of your budget, you'll see the judicial branch, and we're going to agree with the House funding on almost all the branch requests. Two changes there may be on the Prosecuting Attorneys Council. We recommended one-step increase, and at the Superior Courts programming level, we pulled senior court judge funds, added additional funds to provide law clerks for every Superior Court judge in the state. There are currently Superior Court judges who do not have law clerks. This is a strategic and intentional investment to help those judges tackle the court backlog that we expect we will see in a post-pandemic world. At the State Accounting Office, we increased funds for the State Ethics Commission, adding 2 auditors, 1 attorney, and expenses related to updating the e-filing system. And in the Department of Ag budget, we increased funds for certain base salaries for critical employees, in this case inspectors, and agreed to the House funding for the state hemp program. At the Ag Expo program line, you'll see that we recognized some monies that came in through business interruption insurance. Many agencies in our state had business interruption insurance. Some of you know about that from dealing with your constituents or in your private daily lives. What we did here is recognize those business interruption insurance funds, backed out the state funds. You'll see another line item where we do that later at the Georgia World Congress Center. One thing I want to tell you that we made sure we did is made sure those checks were issued before we backed out the state funds, and they were issued in early March. At the Department of Banking and Finance, you'll see we agreed to salary increases for critical positions there. I'm just going to go ahead and highlight all the critical positions now. I mentioned Ag already, Department of Banking and Finance. We also agreed to salary increases for critical positions in the Department of Driver Services. That is probably the agency that our constituents are touched by from the state the most. And in Department of Juvenile Justice and the Department of Corrections, where testimony was that at times turnover and training actually ate away at what we were able to pay employees. So those are strategic salary adds in those departments, and you'll see those reflected through the budget. I've already mentioned the Department of Behavioral Health and the roughly $40 million of increases that we agree with on the House side. We also had some additional increases, including over $1.5 million for respite care services and $1 million for mental health telehealth services. You'll see additions as well for direct care support services in the DBHD budget. Moving on to the Department of Community Affairs, we agreed with 2 of the big gubernatorial initiatives supported by the House, including $39.5 million for the Rural Innovation Fund and $10 million to fund broadband infrastructure grants, which couples with $20 million that we funded for broadband infrastructure grants in the amended budget. But the Senate does believe we need to utilize existing industry and academic partners to support mapping and assist in rural communities, so there was a little difference in the dollar values you'll see with the House on those lines that I'm sure we'll work out in conference. In the Department of Community Health, we agree with the House and the Governor, adding $35 million for DSH payments for disproportionate share hospitals. And we added something, addition that wasn't in the House or the Governor's budget, an $800,000 increase for the all-payer claims database, so we can use analytics to make smarter healthcare decisions pursuant to the implementation of Senate Bill 482. We also agreed with the House and then added a 3rd person for contract oversight and for work with the Office of Planning and Budget on value-based purchasing and quality and outcome-based reimbursement programs across Medicaid. In the Healthcare Facility Regulation Program, we agreed with the House and the Governor to add $4.8 million for survey contracts, $7.4 million for staffing to address the survey backlog, and $153,000 for a deputy director position for quality reimbursement incentives at skilled nursing facilities. In our ABD Medicaid and LIM Medicaid, you'll see on line 90.8 that the Senate moved to update the cost report from 2012 to 2019 and funded a 3% inflation on that. That's something we hadn't updated in almost a decade. And also at line 90.13, we want to use this strategic time to use our enhanced FMAP with other state funds for supplemental payments for quality incentives. The Senate budget also supports a 10% increase in home and community-based service providers and a strategic rate increases of 3% for dental codes, and meets a House position of funding strategic rate increases for 18 select primary care and OBGYN codes. In graduate medical education, we support the Governor and the House's adds of 188 new resident positions in primary care for a cost of $2.5 million. And we add $250,000 to address shortages of medical examiners and forensic pathologists. We know our senator friend from Macon has stressed long about how hard that has been for us to find forensic pathologists and medical examiners. And you're going to see not only here in graduate medical education, you'll see other lines in the GBI that reflect this as well, and I'll try to highlight those as we get there. Additionally, the Senate budget adds $350,000 to a grant program for additional graduate medical education programs across our state, and puts the Healthcare Workforce Board in charge of figuring out where those need to be, which is what they are charged with doing under statute. In our decal program, you'll see that we agree with the House for $3.5 million in additions to the CAPS program to fund child care for low-income families, and agree with the House position on increasing classroom operations by 2.5% for the pre-K program. I mentioned the ads, the large ads for the Department of Education, the $567 million to the QBE program, but I want to point out one other part of the DOE budget where we pulled out the new system collaborative charter schools in line 151.3 and added that back in line 159.4 pursuant to the Senate bill that's already passed. We want to be able to highlight those programs specifically, and by singling them out on that line, we'll be able to do so better moving forward and really highlight the gains that they've had. The DOE budget also reflects the Senate's position on testing and recognizes the changes in the past year of how testing has been affected during the pandemic. Section 27, the Office of the Governor. Many of you stressed that you wanted to see where federal funds were going, and in line 168.1, we recognize the $4.6 billion coming to the state through the American Rescue Plan, and we reiterate the legal provisions of those funds, which were supported by Senator Request. You mentioned that you wanted to see these funds move into fighting the coronavirus, into pandemic enhanced pay where it could be, and also into funding certain infrastructure projects, including water, sewer, and broadband. Those requests are reflected in the language on line 168.1, which also reiterate the legal provisions of those funds. As previously mentioned, I previously mentioned Senate Bill 482. You'll see on line 169.2 that the Senate provides funds for funding the Office of Health Strategy and Coordination. Moving into the Department of Human Services budget, line 177.1, the Senate placed $4.7 million into the budget to help with community partnerships to stem learning loss during the pandemic. Many of you mentioned that as we have, I know the senator from Albany has mentioned that, and we want to make sure that we're providing funds to help in those areas where we can. And in line 188.4, we increased funds to establish therapeutic foster care programs to address the specific need of enhancing the arc of care in the foster care system. In the GBI's budget, there are several line items, as I already mentioned, to fund the other component of medical examiner programs. We want to increase, we found out that there is such a shortage that Georgia may be in a position to export others if we can really step up these programs. And we also agree with the House additions to annualized sworn positions that came over from the amended budget. In the CJCC budget, our domestic violence shelters have seen a huge hit from significant reductions in federal VOCA funds. So while we cannot backfill them all, you'll see in line 212.1, we backfilled the reductions from state funds from last year. In line 212.2, we provided a 9% increase on top of those funds. In line 212.4, we added additional funds for sexual assault centers. And in line 212.5, we provided language to revamp the funding formula, looking at things like bed nights, poverty in the area, so that we can have an updated formula going forward if our VOCA issues are not able to be worked out on the federal level this year. In line 218.1 of the Department of Labor, we fully funded the position of the Chief Labor Officer, and in the DNR's budget, we provided funds for outdoor recreation. Moving to the Public Defender's Council, we supported the House positions in most areas, but agreed with the governor on the funding formula for the new Judicial Center in Columbia County. In the Department of Public Health, we have increases in various areas, including increased funding for Georgia Corps, increased funding for the Sickle Cell Foundation, and increased funding for a nurse peer assistance program, which we have found has been utilized significantly during the pandemic. We also funded additional positions in the Department of Public Health admin that we started in the amended budget. We fully funded those and annualized those in this budget. And we supported the Grady coordination of ER usage, which has really been, we didn't know how helpful it was going to be, but has been extremely helpful during the pandemic as ERs have tried to look across the region and find out where space was available. And we included and continued our support of that endeavor. The Senate budget also recognized federal funds for a new vaccine management system in public health, and at line 246.1 provided $1 million in newborn screening for the Krabbe disease. In the Department of Public Health, we agree with the House on the creation of several new job classes, but took the additional step of also providing educational pay incentives in the Department of Public Safety's budget as well. I think I said Department of Public Health. I apologize, Department of Public Safety. We also fully funded a 75-person trooper school to raise the total number of troopers on the road, which we know has been a big initiative of the senator from the 56, and appreciate his efforts there. At Post, we funded 3 new auditors, 2 new investigators, 1 curriculum director, and 1 cyber security technician. And at Gypstick, we included funding for the School Resource Officer Program, which was championed by the senator from the 10th. We also included additional programs at Gypstick for recruitment and retention of the Fire Academy instructors, and 2 positions to provide training for our volunteer firefighters across the state. The Board of Regents already mentioned to you the big ads that we had on adding back their formulas from 21 and in 22, but we also have several initiatives that were championed by the Lieutenant Governor that we have funded here, including $1.5 million for the Partnership for Inclusive Innovation, $500,000 for the Advanced Technology and Development Centers, and $1.7 million for the Georgia Research Alliance. Additionally, the Senate included $945,000 for the Cyber Center for a rural coding pilot project that we believe can pay great dividends in years to come. You'll also see in the Board of Regents budget at line 278.2 that we included funds for a partnership with Clark Atlanta and Augusta University MCG to support the nationally recognized prostate cancer research center there at Clark Atlanta, and in line 280.4 to support an aviation career pathway at Middle Georgia College and State University, or Middle Georgia State University. You'll see in the public libraries budget we corrected a formula error, and that's just a true up there. In the Secretary of State's budget, you'll see a $1.5 million increase for overt, covert, and forensic ballot security pursuant to Senate Bill 62, and that we also provided additional funds for the Medical Cannabis Commission to help get that program up and started and get that product out the door to be able to serve families. I mentioned the TCSG budget already, and I don't know that I mentioned this or not, but now's a good time to mention again, the $1.2 billion in federal funds that we know will go to the USG system and the TCSG system. The TCSG budget, though, also includes $6 million for their growth formula and $1.5 million for the Senate Bill 204's diploma-based program championed by the senator from Cobb County. In our DOT budget, we made similar moves as the amended to enhance money for capital construction by the reallocation of transportation funds in several areas. And on our bonds on page 191 through 205, I'm just going to highlight a few of them for you now in the Senate's budget. We were able to fully fund the renovations and additions at Mobley Hall. We were able to fully fund the renovations at Camp John Hope. We were able to fully fund the project at Georgia Southern University for the Jack and Ruth Ann Hill convocation system. We were able to fully fund the design of the Gateway Building and certain infrastructure at Georgia Gwinnett College. We were able to fully fund the Christenberry Fieldhouse renovations at Augusta University. We were able to fully fund the Bandy Gymnasium renovations at Dalton State College. We were able to provide various library construction projects, including the Gritters Library in Cobb County, the Thomasville Library, and a consolidation effort for libraries in Toombs County. We were able to fund design for the Cumming Academic Building at the Cumming campus of the University of North Georgia. We were able to fully fund the North Georgia Technical College Dr. Mark I. Vester Center for Living and Learning at North Georgia Technical College. We were able to also fund the Southern Regional Technical College's design of an industrial education building. And then we were able to half fund various projects, including the Georgia Piedmont Technical College project, the Atlanta Technical College project, the Wiregrass Technical College project, and the Coastal Pines Technical College project. In addition, you'll see $1.5 million in bonds to renovate the old judicial building and the state capitol building to make those more accessible and usable for space requirements going forward. and we were able to fund the Lake Lanier Islands project, which has been key to many in the state and in the House. The last bond project, you'll see that we were able to add $12.5 million to rehab state railroad lines, which has long been a priority of the Freights and Logistics Council, as well as members in the House and members in the Senate. While this budget recognizes state finances have outperformed our pandemic expectations, I need to also tell you that there's a lot of uncertainty on the horizon. We know that federal funds, while they're coming in now and they're recognized on many lines in your budget, we do not expect them to continue forever. They're one-time funds. And also changes in policy will affect revenues that we've been able to pull in so far. There have been various changes discussed concerning delaying filing dates. We can live with that, we can work through that, but that will affect our budget slightly. There have also been discussions about taxing of certain incomes and benefits moving into the future. You've also seen, if you look at just our revenue numbers, that we have not seen the payout of when we take in of refunds that we see normally by this time in year. So we know that that's coming as well. So while I tell you, yes, you're absolutely correct, our state finances have outperformed where we thought we would be at this point last year. I'm not at a point yet to tell you that all's good and we're in the clear. There's a lot of uncertainty on the horizon, and I think that this budget reflects that we've outperformed expectations, but we still know that there's a lot of uncertainty remaining. With that, I'll take any questions about the budget. Or a motion. What number are you, Senator? Is it 41 or?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for your whole work in the committee and your team. I'm proud to make a motion to pass House Bill, whatever it is, 81.
81
as
by
amended.
substitute.
Or
Okay.
by committee substitute.
There's a motion that we pass House Bill 81 by committee substitute, second by Senator Ginn. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? And the bill passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll now move to House Resolution 24, and I'll ask Senator Beach if he doesn't mind coming to the podium and presenting that as the subcommittee chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will go over all four of these resolutions. I'll do the first three at once. We met as a subcommittee on compensation. We had 3 meetings. We vetted these resolutions. 3 of them were together, H.R. 24, H.R. 25, and H.R. 26. They were brought to us from Representative Milo of the 163rd. These dealt with a case in Savannah where 3 soldiers were convicted wrongfully and spent 25 years in prison. There was some information that was withheld by the district attorney, and we heard testimony, no testimony, but we did hear a lot of discussion. And again, we had 3 hearings, and it passed unanimous, do pass 6-0. Then we looked at H.R. 29. This was an incident in Columbus where there was a crime committed. A gentleman served 20 years in prison. This dealt with double jeopardy. And so he sat in prison 10 years while the Court of Appeals did not take his case up on double jeopardy. And we voted on this one. We did have public testimony from Senator Robinson, Randy Robinson, and then we had discussion. And again, we had 3 hearings on this, and then we voted on this, and it was passed 4-3. And with that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Senator. So the recommendation of the subcommittee was all 4?
All 4 do pass.
Do pass. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we have to take them up individually just for sake of a motion standpoint. So we'll take a motion, if anyone has a motion on House Resolution 24. Senator we'll recognize Senator Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would recommend House Resolution 24 do pass.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Second by Senator Sims. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? And the motion passes unanimously. Now take a motion on Senate Resolution 25. There's a motion by Senator Jones, Emmanuel Jones, do pass. Is there a second? Second by Senator Watson from the first. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? And the motion passes. Take a motion on Senate Resolution 26. Another motion to pass by Senator Jones from the 10th. Is there a second? Second by Senator Strickland from the 17th. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? And the motion passes. Now take a resolution, or take a motion on Senate Resolution 29. A House resolution, thanks. Apologize about that. House Resolution 29. Move to pass by Senator from the 10th. Is there a second? Second by Senator Davenport. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? No. All right, we'll do hands on that one. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 1. And opposed? My count is 7 yes and 15 no. Is that reflected? And the motion fails. Is there any further business? I'll take a motion to adjourn. Second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Committee stands adjourned. Well, I need to tell them I did not expect that to go down.